So, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Thank you guys so much for joining. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I hope that you see me okay. Everything is good. How's everyone feeling? Let me know who you are, where you're from. Trying to set this thing up so it'll sit correctly. Goodness. All right. So, if you are new here, welcome. I want to welcome you to Increase, where it is my task to increase, illustrate, and inundate you with information, knowledge, and overall help cause you to think. I am your host, Alpheus Gibbs Sr., and I want to welcome you to Increase. Today, our topic is something that I think a lot of times we overlook it, but it's something that I'm definitely um, have dealt with myself, and I know many of you have also. And our topic today is really about bitterness. So, if you're going to take notes, take notes. If not, just sit back, get your lunch, and enjoy this small presentation, so to speak. But I want to share with you about bitterness, and I had this set up, with slides to kind of really illustrate bitterness to you, not only from a biblical standpoint, but also from a psychological standpoint. And some start having some technical difficulties or whatever, it wouldn't merge right like it did before. So I'm gonna have to omit those things. But I wanted to share with you guys some things about bitterness that many of us have in our lifetime have dealt with, or we have oftentimes saw it ourselves. And so I want to make sure that each and every one of you are able to really look at what bitterness is and really look at um, how our life is affected by bitterness. Because many of us, we know at least one or two people right now, currently, that's battling bitterness. They're dealing with bitterness on many stages, many levels. And so I want to kind of give you a glimpse or understanding, so to speak, of what bitterness is and how it functions and flows just a little bit so that you'll know how to navigate being around those kind of people. One thing is for certain, we are a community. We are people who thrive in relationship. No matter how isolated you want to be, at the end of the day, we want to be in good, healthy relationships. And so oftentimes it's really hard to do that when you are dealing with someone who is bitter, when you're dealing with someone who hasn't been able to deal with a lot of the life's choices, a lot of what life has truly thrown at them. One of the things that I've learned in my own journey of being a healthier person mentally, spiritually, is that a lot of times I had the tools to be a better person. I didn't know how to apply them. And then sometimes we have so many tools that you're spending most of your time trying to look at and navigate which tool to use based on whatever situation you're in. If you're a carpenter, you know that there are several different kinds of hammers before you even get to like a sledgehammer or anything of that nature. And so it's the same way, even with our mental health. It's the same way in your Christian walk, or whatever walk of life you're a part of, is that there's so many tools. And oftentimes we get so overwhelmed with how many tools that we have. It's just like when you go to Walmart, right? And you go down the aisle and you're like, I'm just wanting some bread. I don't care. I want some light bread. And you get there and there's potato bread, there's white, there's wheat, There's whole wheat, there's gluten free, there's so many different types, and all you wanted was bread. But when you get to the aisle, you find out there's so many varieties, and they're there based upon your diet, based upon how much bread you want, based upon the size of bread you want. So you really have to know not only what you want, but really narrow down, even in the knowing exactly what it is that you want. And sometimes you have to be open to trying new things. So when it comes to bitterness, bitterness is described by Psychology Today. It is described as a mix of two emotions, sadness and anger. Let me say that again because I know I tend to talk a little fast. Bitterness is best described as a mix of two emotions, sadness and anger. And that resonates with me a lot, especially not even dealing with your childhood or not even dealing with, like your first relationship, but the sadness of I didn't achieve not even a tenth of what I put on my list when I was like a kid, or, you know, going into this new year, 2022. You start looking at your list and you begin to get sad because you're like, oh my God, I haven't achieved, I haven't done not even a tenth. Even when you find yourself working and doing all that you know how you're working, you're in school, or you're trying to achieve a higher height in your business, or whatever. Oftentimes you'll get sad just by looking at not how much you've accomplished, but you begin to look at how much you haven't. And it's really like how the old saying goes, is the glass half empty, half full? What you really should think about is, I'm thirsty, so I'm just going to drink. Or what you really should think about is, what took place between the time the glass was full and me sitting down and realizing that the glass is where it is. So when you begin to think about those things, hey, I'm so glad you guys are on. Um, it's one of those things wherein you're like, I'm sad. Now I have anger. Now I'm angry because I should have done this. Or I'm angry because this person held up my time. I'm angry because I really didn't write down everything like I should have because I felt like I was going to remember it. All anger begins to um just come out of nowhere, so to speak. It begins to just flourish in places that if you're not careful, it'll consume you. So part of you is consumed with sadness, another part of you is consumed with anger. And this is the basis for bitterness. Another portion of that definition of bitterness, according to Psychology Today, it says bitterness is a complex emotion because it also includes disappointment, or the experience of having been disappointed as a pattern of behavior over time. This thing began to really hit me, guys. It really began to hit me because I began to think about those times when not just people have disappointed me, but I disappointed myself. This year, this podcast goal is to get you from pointing a finger at other people and to begin to put your hands down and face the mirror. You know, as the definition just stated, it is a complex of other emotions that include disappointment. What are some disappointments in your life right now that you have pushed to the back burner, that you think you did anyway, but it's really showing up in your life? It's showing up in your friendships, it's showing up in your marriage, it's showing up in your ministry, your job, it's showing up in so many areas. It shows up even in your parenting. When you're looking at your child and you see that they haven't achieved a certain level, it reminds you of either where you excelled as a child, or where that moment when your parent looked at you with the same disappointment that you are looking at now your child. All of those things begin to play a role. And I'm no psychologist, I'm no expert in any of these things, but I just want to put this in your ear because, again, as I told you earlier, this podcast is to really make you think, is to really get you to a place where we put your hands down. I'm not pointing, but I'm going, you know what? Let me fix me. And so I want to make sure that you, even though you have the tools, we have the internet, you have access to therapists, you have access to to your pastor or leader, or to a spiritual guide, or to your priest, or to your shaman, or whomever, or whatever it is that you believe in, or wherever you may go. But I want to give you not so much as give you the tools, but allow you to look at the tools that's around you and begin to work, begin to take up the cause that is around you that needs to be done, and begin to work it. Begin to look at your life and begin to go, I'm going to do something that is scary but needs to be done. I'm going to do the work that I've been putting off. I'm going to do the work that no one is going to see right now, but they're going to feel it and they're going to experience it later. And so it says again, disappointment or experience of having been disappointed. Here's the part that messed me up, man. As a pattern of behavior over time. I can say this, my wife is on and on and off or whatever on this podcast, but there have been moments in our marriage where I have had a pattern of behavior that caused disappointment. And because of my behavior, it changed the atmosphere of the home. It began to change the atmosphere, not only in our relationship, but even in my relationship, even with my children. And so it wasn't me now, going through those things, me pointing a finger at someone, but it was more so now truly looking at, okay, what are you going to do to bring about a change? What are you going to do so that these things are now mitigated and you don't fall back into this pattern? That you don't find yourself walking in this place of bitterness and not even realizing it. We know we oftentimes have this saying, it is what it is, or this is just who I am, and you can't teach an old dog new tricks, and so on and so forth. And that's furthest from the truth. We grow each and every day when you want to. Whether it's reading a book, listening to a podcast, whether it's watching, some docu-series, or even just watching something on your TV that is entertaining or brings about a level of relaxation. We oftentimes have patterns within our life and we don't even realize it. Humans are creatures of habit. We are creatures of pattern. We have a pattern in the way of doing things. And if we're not around people who are close to us enough where they can speak that to us, to say, hey, I'm noticing you're doing this and this is a pattern, we're gonna find that much of our distress, much of what is going on and what we're going through is really going to be hurtful to us. And so we must, in essence, catch the pattern, not before it becomes a habit, but before it becomes a lifestyle. So this is why oftentimes we engage in conversation with people who just have a lifestyle of bitterness. They've been in this state for so long. They've been working in it for so long that they think that they're coping, or that um they're functioning. But just because you're working, or just because you're paying your bills, or just because you're able to still be in certain relationships, doesn't mean that you're functioning. Right now you're riding on grace, or you're riding on the mercy of the people that's around you. Because when you begin to deal with people who are bitter all the time, you really don't want to be around them, because they begin to affect you. And if you're not careful, that bitterness that's on them will begin to fall on you. You'll begin to find yourself acting just like them, and that's something that you don't want to do. I might have several different scriptures that I wanted to share with you. First Samuel 1 and 10, First Samuel 15 and 32, Second Samuel 2 and 26. And I'll post this in the comment section when this is over. And those of you who are on YouTube and others, I'll share them just the same. But I wanted to look at this passage of scripture because it really spoke to me as I was just looking at and thinking about bitterness and what it is and how it flows and how it operates even in our life as a Christian, as a person who believes in Jesus Christ. This is something that that God does not desire for his children to walk into, to find ourselves always in a perpetual state of bitterness. There are going to be things, true enough, that's going to cause you many distress, much sadness, even anger. But we have to make sure that we don't allow it to run our life. We don't allow it to continuously just flow and never see it come to an end. But the scripture is Proverbs chapter 14, verse 10. In the King James Version, it just says, "The heart knoweth his own bitterness, and a stranger doeth not intermeddle with his joy." It's a little old English, and we get that. Let's look at the New International Version. It says, "Each heart knows its own bitterness, and no one can share its joy." It's a little bit better, but we really don't understand it. So then let's look at it through the message word, the message Bible. It says, "The person who shuns the bitter moments of friends will be an outsider at their celebration." Now we're getting somewhere. The person who shuns the bitter moments of friends. I'm not even going to go and say, well, how many of you know this or that? But just think about that for a moment. Just give me maybe 5 minutes. He who shuns those bitter moments of friends. And even though it says friends, we can even include family. We can include spouse. We can include our children. When you begin to shun those moments of sadness and anger within others, or even their disappointing moments, when they come in the upswing, when they move from that place of where they are in the low state to being in a higher state, then there's no wonder that you don't receive an invitation to celebrate in their joy, celebrate in their happiness, because you in essence turned your back on them. Those bitter moments in our life are very crucial because in those bitter moments, in those moments of sadness, disappointment, and anger, and all of those moments builds the relationship. Relationships aren't built on when everything is going well. The relationships are built when there's turmoil happening in the other person's life, and you're there not only as a sounding board, not only to give a hug or a shoulder to cry on, maybe even give advice, but sometimes just your presence is enough to bring comfort and peace in the craziest of storms. Those of you who've ever lost a loved one, you know there are no words that could truly bring absolute comfort. But here's the thing that does: when you have someone who truly loves you and they're there in a genuine way, they're there not to give words or to try to pay for anything or bring you some kind of gift. Their act of showing up and embracing you is a level of love that even words cannot describe. For when you go back and when you continue to live your life and you think back on that moment, you're thinking back on not only who was there, but what they did while they were there. Did they embrace me or were they just sitting distantly? Did they come and really show their face and let me know that they I have their support? Or are they people who were only there so that whenever it's ever brought up, they say, well, at least I was there in the room with you. God, I believe that in these moments, we're starting out this year being our genuine and authentic selves. Outside of what you're going through, outside of how you may feel, we have to be genuinely and authentically ourselves. And it is a sad state to interact with people who genuinely have no care or love for you. There's something about being around people who only are there for your celebrating moments, but in your states where you feel your most loneliest and your most vulnerable, they're nowhere near to be found. The people who are there, who love on you and care for you no matter how your financial status is, speaks greater to the character and the integrity that they have, more than the people who try to buy your affection and love. Most people, if we be honest, their relationships is based upon bribery. That the only way that true is that the only way that resolve comes is by way of bringing a gift. But sometimes you can't buy it. The only thing that you can bring is yourself. So when people ask you, what do you bring to the table? I bring my genuine and I bring my authentic self. And whatsoever attributes I have, you have access to it if we're in relationship. That's kind of the thing that goes on. We really got to begin to think about those things. How oftentimes when we look at individuals, they're so bitter that they don't even realize that they are their own problem. Sometimes, and I say this even about myself, sometimes I don't know how to get out of my own way. And oftentimes you may be in that same place where you're in a state right now where you don't know how to get out of your own way. Begin to ask yourself, what makes me sad? Why am I sad right now? Or why am I angry? Why am I disappointed? The disappointment come because I had a greater expectation than the character and the integrity that the person I'm trying to get it from actually possesses inside of them. Sometimes we're disappointed at people who've been showing a pattern that this is who and what they truly are and what they desire to be. You know, my wife says this all the time, and I love her for it when she says it. She says, "Your mouth, you can fix your mouth to say anything." Sometimes we fix our mouths, and and in other words, you say things just so that you can get by or to get over. You say things that sound really wonderful, but your heart isn't in it. Your actions aren't lining up with it. And the fact of the matter is, right now, all of us, we're looking for genuine relationships. We're looking for people to be genuinely there, authentically themselves. Don't if this is who you are, be who you are. Don't hide it. Let it out, because the more you try to compress it, at some point it's going to come out, and when it comes out, it's going to be vicious and violent. That's what happens when people are bitter. They have so much sadness and disappointment and anger and all of these complexities within them because truly who they are on the inside is trying to get out. The sadness can be mitigated by way of honestly maturing enough and looking at past situations objectively and learning from it. The anger can be subsided by way of just accepting that it's the past, and that at that particular moment, the choice that you made is the choice that you made. And going forward, you can make some adjustments. The disappointment can be overcome by way of looking at the people and the caliber of people that you're around, understanding that growth has taken place inside of you. And so while you've been compressing who you are to remain where you are, you can't cover the growth that has taken place inside of you. You're a better person. You're not a person who is quick to fight or to curse someone out or to walk away, but you genuinely now try to understand. You genuinely now have an authentic heart or a caring heart enough to now want to make sure that everything is okay. And so in all of those instances, this is why you're not able to walk in bitterness. But as you begin to look at others who are walking in it, now you have a question to answer. And that is, do I want to continue in the conversation or in the relationship, or do I need to walk away? Because for some, it's too far gone that they're so invested in it that you obviously can't turn things around, that they themselves have to make the decision to change. You can't change a person. The only person that other people, you can only change yourself. And the only way you can change yourself is to now begin to look within. Yes, we all make mistakes. We have, oh God, so much going on inside of us. Emotions and feelings that you've never even thought could be possible. How can I be happy, sad, depressed, and excited at the same time? There's no definition for that, but it is what it is because that's how I feel. I'm happy, I'm alive, I'm happy, I'm able to see and feel, and I love my family and everything else. But I'm also depressed enough that I don't want to be around people because I don't want them to feel this level of sadness that I feel because I want to be so much better than where I am. And because I'm not there, it causes me so much mental turmoil. But I'm also excited at the possibility of what can come and what can happen, and so much energy balled up inside of me, so many ideas running through me, coursing through my veins, that I know in a matter of time, everything that I ever have wanted in my life is right there at the palm or at the tips of my fingers or in the palm of my hand. Vice versa, in the same way, all of those things are taking place. I'm also happy because as I reflect on where I was this time last year, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, I'm so much better. But how can I explain all of these emotions? You just did. Sometimes you don't need a definition. You just got to begin to weed through the bitterness. You got to begin to weed through and allow yourself to feel and also find the words to describe what you feel and how you feel. Allow yourself to grow. Allow yourself to outgrow. Allow yourself to ingrow. Internally grow. Yes, you may get new clothes and new hairdos and all of this stuff, but internally just become happy. Internally just gain peace. Begin to find yourself smiling and just laughing at some of the smallest things. Those things help make life so much more enjoyable. I want you to think about this. If you're walking in bitterness, if you're bitter right now, how much has bitterness helped you? How much joy has it brought you? Oftentimes, when we look on children and we look at adults, when they transition from being a teenager to an adult, oftentimes the mindset of the adult is the place where they receive their trauma. So for many adults, they're still a teenager or they're still a little baby. And for others, they're at the place of their 20s or their 30s because it was at those moments that caused them the most trauma. But whatever it is, no matter what it is, I want you guys to begin to think about some of the things that is happening in your life. Begin to be your authentic and your genuine self. Sometimes in your self-discovering, you're going to have to kind of say no to the trips and say no to going out because you're discovering what it is that you like, or you're discovering who is truly a friend or truly is family. I've experienced friendship to the place where they're no longer friends but they're family. And then I've also experienced where friendship turned into a complete stranger. But here's the thing, and I'll say this so I can be done. You never want to look in the mirror and see a complete stranger. You never want to look in the mirror and go, "Who the heck are you?" When you get to that place, you definitely need to begin to weed through your emotions and your thoughts. Like the song said, there's a stranger in my house. Sometimes the stranger is you. And you don't want to be that. You want to begin to work through those things. You want to begin to look at your life and begin to enjoy the moments that you have, great and small. Don't let bitterness rob you of wholesome and meaningful relationships. Don't allow bitterness to keep you in a box where when something is said as simple as good morning, it causes you so much, it causes your mind to go into a place where you're just like, I'm going to attack. And they don't even understand why you're attacking them. But it's okay. As long as you are doing and being who God has called you to be, as long as you are doing what you know to do to be a better you, that is the greatest thing you could ever be. So today, I just want to encourage you to look at bitterness from a different viewpoint. Look at yourself with the same scrutinous eye that you do when you look at others and begin to go, am I walking in bitterness? Am I sad and angry? Am I in a place of disappointment? Am I dealing with a pattern of sadness or a pattern of behavior over time? Over time, this complexity of disappointment after disappointment after disappointment is causing you to walk in a place of resentment and bitterness, or you just say, you know what, I'm going to look at me and I'm going to improve me, and as I improve me, those who remain will remain and those who leave will leave. But no matter what happens, no matter what goes down, I will not stop being me, and I will not stop improving me. Because, in other words, I have to be the change that I want to see in the world. And so that change is going to start when I start working on me. So I hope you guys are having an amazing day. I hope you're enjoying your lunch while you're sitting across possibly from your coworker, or have a conference call on mute while you're listening to me. I hope that you're able to enjoy this moment, this 30 minutes or however long we've been on. I hope you're able to enjoy it. Really look at bitterness and go, you know what? Not only were there times that I walked in it, I'm even walking in it right now, but I want something different. I want to start working on these areas in my life. I hope you're able to do it. I hope you're able to achieve all of the goals that you have, not only for today, but for the rest of the week. I believe that with each step, you're getting closer and closer to your goal. You're getting closer and closer to being what you have ultimately been desiring and dreaming about. Here's a little nugget for you. You know, you're closer to who you want to be today than you were yesterday, and you're so much better than you were the day before. But on today, you're going to seize the moment to be the greatest you've ever been, because the day is not over. You all have an amazing day. You have an amazing week. I'll see you on Friday here at 1 o'clock for Increase. God bless.